Hey folks, Ish Monroe here for Fisherman's Warehouse, and we gotta talk about punching because it's coming that time of year. I know a lot of you guys have already started. I've been doing it since February. For me, punching is almost a year-round thing. I mean, we're talking January to December. It gets a little slower in the winter months, December, January, but man, February starts firing up. March, April, it's getting really good. May on through the rest of the summer, we're talking about fire. We got to talk about rod, reel, and line setup first, because if you don't have the right equipment, you're basically taking a knife to a gunfight. And so for me, it's an 8-foot heavy action, kind of a parabolic flipping stick. The Tatula Elite Series punch rod, designed by me, is available at Fisherman's Warehouse. Is the rod that I use. It's 8 foot. It has a little bit of a soft tip to it, but a lot of backbone, but it's very parabolic, and the whole rod bends to being able to, what I call, bungeeing those fish out. So you make that flip into that mat, you get bit, you set that hook, you're bowed up on them. The fish is going to be pulling that rod, and that rod's going to stop. And then when it does that, that rod starts pulling back, and it bungees those fish out of that heavy mat. I'm teaming that up with the pitch and flip reel, Tatula Elite Series flip and pitch reel, 7-to-1 gear ratio. I hear a lot of guys talking about 8s and 9 gear ratios. Those are too fast. You're kind of like trying to ride a 10-speed uphill. You want something mountain bike, a little bit lower gears, but you don't want to be too low in gear because you will miss strikes because of it. So 7-to-1 gear ratio takes up 3 feet of line in one turn of the handle. So you're talking 36 inches in one turn of the handle. That's why I like the 7-to-1 gear ratio. Line, minimum 65 pound. I love throwing 65 pound samurai, 65 pound Daiwa J-Braid 8 carrier, and then I'll also go to 70 pound samurai when I want something not as grainy as what people would say when you hear that line going zip zip back and forth through the guides. And that's kind of a finesse thing for me, is what I call it, is when you use the samurai, it's a little bit more slick, a little bit more smooth. I do like the J-Braid most of the time, but I will use samurai as well. So you've got rod, reel, and line. Very important. Let's talk about the rigging of it. I use the Angler's King Easy Weight, anywhere from a 3/4 ounce all the way up to a 2 ounce weight. In black, green pumpkin, it's kind of like matching it. And then the River to Sea New Jack flipping hook. And that's all depending on the size of the bait that you want to throw. If I'm fishing the Missile Baits D-Bomb, I use the 5/0 New Jack flipping hook. If I'm using the Baby D-Bomb, I'm going to a 3 or a 4 jack New Jack flipping hook from River to Sea. Very, very important. But before you even put your weight on, you better use what we call a bobber stop. This is the peg stop by 6 cents. One of the ones that I use. I mean, I don't have a particular one choice. I'm thinking about designing one, but overall, the 6 cents peg stop is a great peg stop. Anything that's going to keep that weight connected to the line, to the bait, so when you punch through, the weight doesn't go down and the bait sits up on top of the mat, and that's super duper important, making sure that bait goes down. Questions I get asked: how do you work your bait? You have to let the fish dictate to you on how that bait is being worked. Sometimes they want it, as soon as it goes through, they're going to eat it right away, and then you know that you don't have to put it in there and work it, because if you put it in there and they eat it right away, then you want to basically get as many flips or pitches in as you can when you're punching through that mat, because the more water you cover, the better it is. And that's when I love it. And that's the majority of the time what's going to happen on a punch bite, because when they're underneath those weeds and that thick matted vegetation, they don't get messed with. They're very, very comfortable, and they're very, very happy. And that's why a lot of big fish live there. And that's why punching and flipping is definitely the way to go, because people don't fish it a lot of times, and so the fish are happy and they're comfortable and they don't get spooked very easy. And so there's really no finessing to it. You don't need to downsize your braid. You can actually even upsize your braid, but then you lose a little bit of feel, and feel's very important. And that's how we're going to get into with hook sets. You know, I was talking to Luke Johns about it just a few minutes ago on hook sets, on how important they are. So when you punch through there and that fish hammers that bait really hard, you want to make sure that you do a lighter hook set. A lot of those times when they do that, they just grab the bait and they're holding it right there. but then you get those real subtle soft bites to where you flip it in there and all of a sudden it just keeps on going. You have to hammer those fish a lot harder because they have that weight down in their gullet. And when you're flipping that tungsten weight, if they get in their gullet and in their crushers, they can sit there and hold on to that bait and not ever move and never get a hook penetrated because it's so hard down on top of it. And so you have to really, really hammer those fish. But like I said, when I pitch in there, it's never a slack line bite either. It's always a tight line, pull hard, or a tight line, click it over, let him pull, and just be kind of easing back on them on those super hard hook sets. So the harder the bite, the softer the hook set. The softer the bite, the harder the hook set. And that's pretty much flipping and punching 101. Appreciate you guys watching on punching here. You can go to Fisherman's Warehouse, Manteca, Fairfield, Sacramento, and all the guys there can definitely get you set up on the right gear and where the hot punch bite is. And if you have any questions, leave a comment in our social media for me, Monroe, and I will get back to you in, another report.